Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We're going on a tree hike today. Wherever you're from, welcome. If you live down in Phoenix or you live here in Flagstaff, you'll already be a little more familiar with kind of what we're going to go through today. But if you're not, thanks for tuning in and hopefully you learned something. Today we're going to be talking about 3 different types of trees. We're going to be looking at the alligator juniper, the Arizona cypress, and the Arizona sycamore. And I've got a little treat of each here, just a little sneak peek of what we're going to look at. So this is a cypress leaf needle. You can see it's got these orange tips on there. This is the alligator juniper, much like the cypress. Pretty subtle. And then we've got a piece of a sycamore branch. You can see this kind of almost looks like camo. So we're going to be looking at each of those trees and kind of what they're used to, what their habitat's like, how they live, and what they need to survive. So we're going to go ahead and start with the alligator juniper first. We're going to head down one of the hiking trails around here and kind of get started talking about that tree. So without further ado, let's get going. And here we have the alligator juniper, otherwise known as Juniperus debiana. It gets its name from the pattern of the bark on the tree, and I'll actually show you guys real quick. You see right here on the side of the tree, looks a lot like an alligator's skin. It's very rough as well. It's among the tallest of juniper species. It can grow up to 65 feet. Typically down here in Red Rock country though, you see heights of around 20 to 40 feet. They're fully mature at about 170 years old, but there have been alligator juniper recorded up to 500 years old, so that's pretty darn old. They range from northwestern Mexico all the way to western Texas, and all the way here into Red Rock country in northern Arizona. This species can range anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 feet. We're at about 4,300 feet right now, so it's kind of in the lower range of their elevation. It all depends on soil and weather. They typically enjoy a little drier, but of course the monsoon rains bring enough moisture for them. Usually they'll be spread out among other species of juniper or among small groves of pine, so you won't see them dominating forests. They'll be spread out among other juniper trees, or they'll grow in small groves in other forests. They're known as dominant where they exist, so they are the dominant juniper species at least. They are very resilient to fire. This is the reason why they're dominant. About half the time, in about a year, they'll sprout up after a wildfire occurrence and keep growing. Cones typically open in February. On this tree, doesn't look like too much is going on, but they mature around August, so there's some time left still. Juniper seeds will actually wait until conditions are right, meaning enough water, enough rain, and of course enough sunlight for germination, and typically seed dispersion is heavily reliant upon wildlife. So this guy's pretty great. We're going to move on over to the Arizona sycamore down by the river. Here we have the Arizona sycamore. I don't know if you can hear behind us, there's the sound of the creek. That's Oak Creek behind us. It's flowing real nice today and it's really clean. Arizona sycamore is also known as Platanus rhyti, that's the Latin name. Typically they love to grow down here by the water. More of riparian, but the area we're in right now, less riparian and more direct stream access. They still love it. The bark is usually mottled appearance, as you can see here. It starts off as brownish and slowly peels away to a whitish. So it kind of combines, and usually when these trees are mature, they end up looking a lot like this. This is a pretty big guy. They can grow up to about 100 feet, given the right conditions. This guy's probably around 30 or 40 feet. The seed of the sycamore is present through a yellow flower that will bloom in the spring months, so March and April. It'll drop its seed down very close to the tree, and trees will spread up in little clusters. That's how they survive along the river here. Usually they'll kind of gather up. There's a couple right around here that you can see back here. Arizona sycamore is deciduous, of course. As you can see, got a leaf right here, so it's pretty dead. Be a lot greener in the summer for sure. They're very big leaves, very large leaves, and that's why the sycamore leaves down here can afford to have such large leaves. Commonly seen throughout Arizona and New Mexico, and also northern parts of Mexico. The altitude range is anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 feet. If you see anything below 2,000 feet, it's going to be purposely put in by people. Typically, it's a shade tree. So if you live in a city like Phoenix and you see sycamores hanging around, it's usually going to be to serve a purpose. It's not going to be a natural tree. I think we're ready to go on to the Arizona cypress. So we're going to head back up to flat ground and let's learn more about that. Alrighty, I'm standing under an Arizona cypress right here. This is one of the biggest cypress trees I've personally seen in my life. Also known as Cypressus arizonica. Arizona cypress is found across most of the southwestern United States. It's actually one of the more widespread trees. It's found, of course, here in Arizona, parts of Utah, parts of New Mexico and Nevada, and Southern California. There's a few closely related species which can kind of throw people off sometimes. There are varieties. Typically they'll look pretty similar though. Some of the bark on these trees are more of a reddish, as you can see right here, kind of more papery and thin, easily peels away. Some bark is more gray and thicker, a little harder to peel off. These trees typically grow from 40 to 75 feet, but can grow up to 100. This guy is kind of closer to the water than most, so he's about 70 or 80 feet tall, which is pretty good. Especially for living out in the desert. Typically they'll grow anywhere from 3,500 feet to 8,000 feet. They're pretty hardy. We're about 4,300 still, so he's growing pretty good. Usually height will depend on fire exposure, so more fire. Usually these trees will be lower and not as big and chunky as this guy. They'll be a little smaller, more shrubby. Something like you'd see on the I-17 coming up from Phoenix to Flagstaff as you get to about 3,500 feet or so. They grow really quickly, and they'll grow in a more traditional tree shape, as you can see here. The reproduction method involves cones, or little pods, I guess you could call them, that will not sprout unless the parent tree has died in fire. I've actually managed to pull some seeds. So you can see here, you've got, this is off a dead cypress. It's more open. You can see the seeds have fallen out. Whereas this guy came off a fresh tree, not opened yet because the parent is still alive, still hanging on to those seeds really well. AZ cypress is really adaptable to wildfire, can handle it. After the fire occurs, only needs the bare minimum in soil and moisture as well to continue growing. And it'll sprout right up about in a year after fire. The only caveat is that these trees are susceptible to a fungus or a blight known as Cercospora sequoiae, which is typically not going to happen unless the tree is under some type of water stress. So that concludes our little tree tour. We'll head on back to the where we started and kind of wrap up and finish talking about these trees. That concludes everything for today. Thanks for coming along and seeing what we could learn about these trees. I hope that you guys pulled something away from this. Very important trees to the ecosystem around here. Definitely learned about the alligator juniper and its dependency on animals to propagate, and of course its preference for higher, drier climates. Learned about the sycamore, opposite of the alligator juniper, likes to live down with the water. It gets a lot bigger than an alligator juniper will, but it also provides a lot of shade in return for as much water as it likes to drink up. We also know about the AZ cypress, which today in this case is thriving. It's one of the biggest trees I've seen. Luckily it has the luxury of living closer to the water than most cypress trees. Typically we see them up higher, but in this case, awesome tree, awesome specimen. All these trees are super unique and they contribute in different ways to the environment. And I hope that you guys can continue this research and figure out kind of more about these trees and how they work with the environment. Thank you.